As many of you know, we here at ESCalation are not necessarily the greatest fans of Activision. Because according to our humble opinion, they have made some less than disappointing decisions. This opinion is of course formed from a pro-consumer stand that we here tend to take. Corporate-wise, their decisions may very well be smart, but as someone who always wishes for the best deal for the end consumer, and I think I speak for everyone here involved with ESCalation, we disapprove. So I am rather happy to see that they are acknowledging that they are on a downwards trend. To be fair, their games are still selling well, they have numbers other companies would die for. But the sales are declining. The player base is dwindling, the ratings get lower. Not only from disappointed gamers, even critics from renowned gaming outlets are writing less and less favorable reviews. But the way Activision chose to counter the decline of their intellectual properties is not taking the high road. That is the reason why they decided to remaster the first Modern Warfare, instead of pouring all resources into one truly astonishing game with great story writing and overhauled gameplay. This would have meant taking a risk, so it is not an option for a company where the decisions are not guided by creativity rather than by the biggest shareholders. When selling shovelware level games does not cut it anymore, you go ahead and try the nostalgia approach. Because old gamers like me are filled with happy memories of simpler days when playing Call of Duty was new and exciting. The younger gamers are hearing about these games and read the glorified reviews and want to test these new old games for themselves. Of course, we could just all go ahead and get the original off the shelves or buy it for a few bucks online, but that new remastered thing with the shiny new graphics just looks so goddamn enticing. Though the graphics don't even look that good. And why the fuck does Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered take up 82 GB of hard drive space and Battlefield 1 only 80? Oh well, after I played the old Call of Duty and the remastered one once again, I must say, yeah, the story is nice. Certainly not a deep one, but fun and action-packed. A Michael Bay film with some interaction, and while I cannot stand his movies, when participating in it, it becomes more fun to me. Back when I used to play Call of Duty a lot more, the multiplayer was fun. But something was missing, therefore I was really looking forward to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It turned out that Modern Warfare 2's single player was more shallow but all the more action-packed. The multiplayer improved upon the formula laid out by its predecessor, and the co-op missions, while simplistic, were fun. They are something that I have been really missing in the more modern Call of Duty games. When I was still actively playing Call of Duty, I invested over 250 hours into the game, cause I liked it. But in retrospective, the game has glaring issues. Back then I guess my demands were not that high. But my journey of how I grew to dislike the Call of Duty franchise is not today's topic. The company publishing these games is the topic at hand. But for the sake of having an example of what I find so bad about them, let us stick with their flagship franchise. As many of you know, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered will be released this summer. And as I heard that it will be released on its own for 20 bucks, I got excited, cause, you know, it's a remaster and all those good memories and it's so goddamn enticing, yada yada yada. The disillusionment came rather quickly. As far as I know now, the remastered game will only come with the single player campaign. And I don't know anyone who would buy a Call of Duty game just for the single player that only takes up 5 hours at best. The multiplayer is a cornerstone of the franchise. For Modern Warfare 2, the multiplayer, and especially the co-op mode, are a gigantic selling point that elevate this entry of the series above others. But just remaking the single player campaign is cheaper, and I guess enough to milk the nostalgia surrounding the game. Multiplayer servers cost money. You would have to keep the anti-cheat software up to date or even invent your own new anti-cheat software. Do you remember the undeserved VAC ban fiasco with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2? That was a shit show that they sure don't want to repeat. Of course, you could always give the option to host community servers to your customers, but releasing dedicated server tools would just mean giving up control over the game. And not to mention spending money on developing and implementing such tools that are no good for optimizing earnings. Especially if you want to keep your ever-dwindling player base sticking to one game, and not keep them playing the old games from a few years ago because they have their own servers. Without the multiplayer, you can avoid having to go through all the hassle of balancing the game and optimizing and removing old bugs and exploits. If they were to introduce the multiplayer to the game, I wouldn't put it past them to use the old peer-to-peer system. And my god, I hated that. Right in the middle of the match, suddenly the host left the game. Fuck nostalgia, it wasn't all good back then. Still, Modern Warfare 2 is not a bad game. Yet for many, me included, it marks the beginning of the downfall of the franchise. Modern Warfare revolutionized the franchise and it started a whole new trend in first-person shooters. Ever since then, they failed to revolutionize their formula ever again, and the joke of releasing the same game every year was born. If trying to cash in on nostalgia is the right way to break this stagnation and downwards trend is questionable. And looking at more recent rumors, leaving out the single-player campaign of the upcoming Call of Duty completely and instead trying to shoehorn in a Battle Royale mode to just get a piece of the Battle Royale cake that is currently, well, pretty big, yeah, good luck with that. If they really attempt to copy PUBG or Fortnite, I'd be surprised if it won't turn out to be a failure. The problem with Activision is that they whittle down everything to be oversimplified. And with that I don't mean streamlining, I mean dumbing down. This video could be about all of their IPs. Call of Duty is just the most prominent. When I think about what they did to the whole Tony Hawk franchise, that makes me wanna rip out my hair. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1-4 were amazing, and from there on it was a slow decline until the most recent fiasco of an unfinished mess. They took the same approach as they do with Call of Duty, but worse. When I heard that Spyro is getting a remake, I got pretty excited. Seeing a proper game with that purple dragon, not this abysmal Skylander stuff. Seriously, who fucked up the design? And after the first excitement, I remembered who holds the rights to Spyro. Activision. Of course, Activision has to make money. They are a company, not a charity. But video game companies need to find the right balance between the need for creativity and generating profit. And Activision is out of balance. That is how they ended up milking so many franchises as hard as possible before running them into the ground. And introducing microtransactions as hard as possible with the goal of making them into a social event, using that little bit of manipulative peer pressure to make people buy more virtual nonsense. How about redistributing some of that creativity to some more story or gameplay related areas? Making your games more fun to play and less into a virtual shopping center where people without fancy microtransactions get disadvantaged in matchmaking. The problem with Activision is that these actions are pretty anti-consumer. They give you a bad deal. Don't get me wrong here, these are issues other companies face as well. Their biggest competitor EA doesn't look much better in my eyes. But when you make headlines with filing patents for concepts for pushing loot boxes onto your customers, many of whom are just kids, then you put the cherry on top of the cake of looking like the bad guys. Though EA is really trying hard to take away that top spot. After the backlash around microtransactions and loot boxes in recent months, we did notice big publishers being more careful about what to implement and how to further monetize their games on top of the $60 price tag. Activision likes to sell us old DLCs that once were free, so maybe we can purchase the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered co-op mode for another $20 soon after the release. So, what do you guys think of this? Is the criticism too harsh? Do you agree, or would you go further? Share your opinions in the comment section down below. See you guys next time. Till then, have a nice day and as always, goodbye and guten Tag.
In 1861, hurrah, hurrah, that was when the war began, hurrah, hurrah. In 1862, both sides were calling to them with all drink, stone, wine, and Johnny comes marching home.